something I noticed about the top 12 is if you look at the top 12 finishers, you're looking at the past, present, and future of sprint car racing.
Hello, race fans, and welcome back to the Ohio Dirt Track Podcast. We're coming to you on a beautiful Tuesday here following the Kings Royal in Ohio. We're not going to call this episode 14. We're going to call this a bonus episode because last night Jacob Horde, race watcher, and Derrick Bean and myself, Clint, were able to get on the phone and do a little recap of the results from the 36th running of the Kings Royal over the weekend. First, before we get into that recap, I want to mention, make sure that you're following us on Twitter, Facebook, share with your friends, send us a message and let us know what you're thinking. Subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, I have the hats. So I have a short run of hats. They're $20 each. They are flex fit at small, medium, and large. Shoot me a message and let's talk about what size you think you need, and I will get those hats to you. This is a short run. I do expect them to be a little more expensive when we get the next runs out. $20 each for this short run of hats. Send me a message, let me know what you need. So without further ado, here is our recap of the 36th running of the Kings Royal. All right, so we're all on the phone here. This is Clint. We have Jacob on the phone and Derrick on the phone as well, fresh off of the Saturday night's Kings Royal. Actually, Jacob was there. Derrick and I were watching on Dirt Vision, and we're gonna do some recap here really quick, talk about this event, and get some thoughts on the new format, some surprises that we saw, just kind of talk through it. So, Jacob, let's talk about, why don't you lead us off and talk about the surprises we saw in qualifying.
So I'm sure everybody that was at Eldora and that was following the event had Cy Lynch going quick time by over a tenth of a second, I believe, too, over Logan Schuchart. And then Tom Harris, who was making his first trip to Eldora, he turned his first lap at Eldora on Wednesday night, ended up going like third quick. So, of course, everybody had those two to go in the top three. The good thing for Cy Lynch was, qualifying first, he ended up locking himself into the feature, and then with Logan Schuchart transferring through his heat, that allowed Tom Harris to transfer through to the feature as well on his time, becoming the first European to ever qualify for a World of Outlaw event, and it just happened to be the biggest paying wing sprint car race in the nation. So for whatever reason, those two were really, really quick. Cy Lynch was quick all week, actually. He made the dash his first night, Thursday night, and then Friday night he made the feature, and Saturday night he obviously went quick time. But fun fact, that team put that all together like the week before. Cy was actually running his uncle's 305 car, and they decided to go by a 410 and stick it in and see what happened. And by golly, he turned quite a few heads. And Tom Harris he got better each time he hit the track, I think. Starting Wednesday night in the non-wing car, he made his first ever USAC feature, and then he went like 18th to 7th for the Hard Charger Award, and that was his first ever time at Eldora. And then, like I said, each time he hit the track in the wing car, I think he just got faster and faster and faster. So in his limited starts over here in the U.S., he's definitely looking pretty impressive.
I saw one of the nights they interviewed Lynch, and he was telling that story, and he was saying, we put the engine in on Tuesday night, and actually they called me over the weekend, I think, so we had the opportunity, and then Tuesday we dropped the engine in, and here we are. Like, we just decided to go run the Kings Royal with a 410, and we're not a 410 team.
Yeah, we're just gonna show up and see what happens.
Right, no big deal. We're just gonna go do it.
Yeah. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. He runs 410s in Western Pennsylvania, right? In his own car or for someone?
Correct. Yeah. So he's normally like a Lernerville and Sharon regular.
Okay, that's what I thought.
So he does have 410 experience, but I guess that car, it sounded to me like that car did not have a 410 in it, and they weren't, it sounded like it was kind of a last minute thing, and I was like, okay, we're going to the Kings Royal.
Yeah, exactly, yep.
So top qualifiers were definitely a surprise. And then I know we all talked about the format, and Twitter was alive with how confusing it was and how much there was to read and learn. But it actually, I made the comment to you guys when we were texting. It was kind of like playing Texas Hold'em. I mean, there's so much strategy in it. It was fascinating.
I mean, it definitely was. And even I didn't fully understand the format with the whole joust thing until they were actually doing it. So it was definitely interesting because they had the revenge draw to set the lineup for the joust. So like your guys that you didn't think were going to be up front or fast. So your Tom Harris and Cy Lynch started up front, and then your two really, really fast guys, Donnie Schatz and Logan Schuhart, started in the back of the joust. So I think Pittman ended up winning the joust, and so he had first choice of heat race, and he stuck with heat race 1, I believe, because he didn't think that the track was going to widen out. So he was kind of banking on the track not widening out, not being real racy, and people not being able to pick up a lot of positions. But as we kind of saw, that didn't work out in his favor a lot.
Right, it's easy in hindsight to say he made the wrong decision, but I mean, in the first heat there wasn't obviously a ton of passing, but he probably made the right call. It just didn't work out in his favor.
And then you have Donnie Schatz, who decides to go with heat race 5, and Logan, who just kind of goes for it and says he's going to basically shoot for the pole and go for heat race 6, because if you win heat race 6, you start on pole of the feature. So Donnie looked like a genius because he decided he wanted to go for heat race 5, and even though he started 6th in heat race 5, he worked his way up and he won, meaning that he got to start on the outside pole come feature time.
That the revenge draw, which I understood the basics of it, and they, I know of a revenge draw, but I'd never seen one play out like that, on a stage. That was actually extremely entertaining for the joust. I enjoyed the way they staged that. I thought it was very crowd friendly, I guess. And sometime during the joust, Derrick, you sent us a text and said, Sammy's going to start on the pole, isn't he?
Yeah. Once I saw his heat race was 6th, and he was on the pole of heat 6, and he's going to be hard to pass, obviously. He'd get a good jump. He'd be hard to pass. I just kind of threw that out there, but he probably was going to be on the pole of the feature.
Yeah, when I got that, I thought to myself, man, what a story. What a way, if that were to happen, how much more incredible would that make this event? And it did come to fruition. Let's talk to the heat races first. Jacob, what do you have on heat race 1?
Heat race 1, I think, was won by Brad Sweet. Honestly, I don't remember a lot about that one, but I think it was basically Brad Sweet just kind of went out and dominated. That's probably why I don't remember too much, because there probably wasn't a lot coming out of it. But Brad got his ride off to a good start and locked himself into the feature, being able to start in the 6th position.
Heat race 2?
I just remember that it was kind of a surprise seeing Corey Eliason win that heat race, locking himself into the 5th starting position for the feature. It kind of seems like whenever the lights are brightest, Eliason does really, really well. He went and won the 2nd feature at Mansfield for the Sprint Car World Championship, and then he comes out to the Kings Royal, wins his heat race, and starts in the top 5.
3rd heat race?
Oh, that was Aaron Reitzel. So Reitzel ended up, as you said in the interview after the heat race, he said he capitalized on sucking in qualifying, and he won the heat race, which meant he got to start in 4th place. But I remember, I think he had tire issues in the feature, which kind of ruined his race. But I definitely thought Reitzel starting in 4th place, though, was going to be something to watch just because Brycel is always fast no matter where he goes.
And the winner of the fourth heat race?
Kerry Madsen, so the Madman, from one of the Knoxville regulars, so he has a lot of experience running around the big tracks, and he's won the Kings Royal before, so he knows what he's doing. He's just always fast whenever he shows up to some of these bigger tracks. So he got to lock into that third starting spot in row 2. I definitely thought he was going to make some noise, but he just kind of faded back in the feature a little bit.
Heat race 5?
This one was pretty entertaining. I just remember Donnie started in 6th, and he watched, I think it was Ty Lynch and Paige Polyak, I think is who he watched kind of battle. Or no, it wouldn't have been Ty Lynch. I don't know what I'm
thinking. It was Wimmer and...
oh, yeah.
Wimmer and Polyak for a while were going at it.
Yeah,
so
she started...
Donnie,
Paige started inside second row?
I think she was first row.
Was she?
I thought she started second, maybe.
Okay, I don't remember.
She started out...
No, I think she started second place. I think outside row 1 is what I think she was.
Yeah, I felt like she had a great showing. She started pretty strong there, and then it just kind of faded. But Jacob, go ahead with what you were saying.
Yeah. So yeah, I just remember Wimmer and Polyak battling for that lead for a good chunk of the race, and then Donnie just kind of like, yep, bye. Got by them both pretty quick. Ended up looking like a genius calling that 5th heat race and going from 6th to 1st so that he could start on the outside pole.
If you remember, though, he did not call it. He had the crew chief call.
Yeah,
P5.
Yeah. He literally had his crew guy call his crew chief from the pits as Donnie was sitting on the track to figure out what heat race they wanted to go, because Donnie, he couldn't make that decision, I guess. He wanted to make the right decision, and obviously they did.
And then in heat race 6, Jacob, what was this scene like from the stands at Eldora during heat race 6?
I mean, people were pretty excited that Sammy was on pole, and then he just kind of jumped out to that lead, and people, they were genuinely excited that Sammy Swindell was going to win his heat race, and obviously they went nuts when he won. And then the post-race interview where Sammy actually showed some emotion.
Yeah.
And that was definitely one of the talking points of the night was Sammy, and obviously Derrick called it too, was with Sammy started on pole of the feature.
So Derrick, do you have anything notable from the Last Chance or C/B?
Obviously Carson Macedo had some issues. He was in C, right? That was Saturday night, and he got through the C, and he was making some moves in the B, but he fell a little bit short. For a while there, it looked like Shane Stewart was not going to make the feature, and then he ended up sneaking in to one of those last couple of spots. Those were a couple things I noticed from guys you would have thought might be toward the front in contenders, and one didn't make it, and then one snuck in the last minute.
Right, so I think, Shane Stewart got the last starting position. Something notable I remember from the C main was that big crash on the start, I think, with R.J. Jacobs, Travis Philo. I think Andrew Shirley was in it as well, but I got to see Jacobs' car after that, and holy smokes, it was pretty bent up, to say the very least.
Yeah. Another one they talked about all weekend. They talked about him a lot that weekend. You know, he's only been in 8 starts in the 410 going into the weekend, and it wasn't that many more 360 starts as well. And had some decent showings. Made the B main one night, and definitely a guy to keep an eye on. They got a real nice setup. You said he went down to their trail and stuff.
Right, and they have, I believe they have Andy Potter turning the wrenches on that one. So Spencer Basin's old crew chief is working on that car. But maybe one of the biggest moments of the night was in the B main with good old Parker Bryce Miller.
Right. I can only assume that he didn't realize what had happened. So if you missed it, Parker Price Miller slowed first, but he hit the wall coming out of 2, I believe.